Let me invite our first esteemed speaker for the day on the dais, Mr. Sriram Kalyanaraman, Managing Director and CEO, National Housing Bank. A banking veteran, Mr. Sriram has worked with leading banks like Standard Chartered and Deutsche Bank before taking on the helm of affairs at the National Housing Bank. Having over 25 years of experience in the retail banking sector, Mr. Sriram works towards implementing the government agenda of housing for all. He hopes to achieve this milestone by 2022. With an MBA in Finance and Marketing, his illustrative career spans sales management, credit bureaus, and business management. He also takes a keen interest in microfinance and rural banking and aims to create an environment of affordable housing for all with a healthy, profitable ecosystem. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Sriram Kalyanaraman.
It's always a little difficult and probably a little nervous to stand in front of so many intelligent and inquisitive minds and talk something and then face the questions. Because as I said, probably every time I go to the students, my team asks me, why do you want to prepare it? Because you speak many times. But I always say this is like attending an exam without a syllabus, right? There are no holds barred. You can get questions on anything. We as government servants attend these parliament committees. And they're very tough, okay, because technically they are our elected representatives. You are recorded. Anything what you say wrong would be a privilege of the parliament, or it could be hauled up. And then that's the same feeling I get when I stand before the students, because that is also the same. They could ask questions on anything because they are people's representatives and they have much wider knowledge of things. So be that as it may, it's always a pleasure to stand in front of the young budding minds and talk and share some of our thoughts. And in most of the times, as your chairman said, it's always a learning experience for us. I've never come out of a students' meeting without learning something, because it's such a fertile mind, such inquisitive minds, and we always learn. And we always say that it would be a much better world if the students can run this world. I'm sure there won't be many of the problems which your chairman pointed out. I've been given 2 topics, so that is a bit of trick. So finally I've taken the easy way out, and being a government servant, I know now just to balance these things. So we are going to cover the most important thing, what are the disruptive changes, which your chairman pointed out, but how they can also be productive on the positive side. And then very briefly, I am going to touch upon the leadership just to give an idea. And trust me, I'm not going to take more than 20 minutes, probably 25 minutes, because there are some videos we have given it to you. How do we adapt to these changes is what I'm going to do a pointer to you. And we all confront. But again, let's go back. It's Winston Churchill who said those days, to improve is to change, to be perfect is to change often. So changes are going to be as certain as probably death and taxes, right? They said death and taxes are certain, but changes are certain. You look 5 years ago, 15 years ago, 5 years after, changes are going to be certain. We all confront our changes, and our responses are often determined by how we perceive these changes. Some changes we get very scared and we react violently, or we run away, like seeing a snake. Probably it doesn't even mind you walk along. Right? I come from a village, and many times I see the trusted servants will say, just walk, nothing will do. They won't even bother to take a stick or hit it or whatever when they see a snake in the fields, because they know it has its place and it would live there. But when we get scared, we start hitting it or running away. Some changes we really see and adopt and wait and watch. For example, some of the technology changes. Some people are early adapters, as you learn in marketing, and some people decide to wait and watch. Let's just look at this. 10 years ago, Twitter was a sound, right? Nobody would have understood if I come and say, what's a Twitter? www would have been a struck keyboard at the most. Cloud was in the sky. 4G would have been a parking space number, and Google would have been a baby's burp, right? Today, if you go to a 4-year-old and say this meaning, they would think, what are you talking about? Are you guys gone mad? Because even a 4-year knows or a 5-year knows how to operate an iPad and almost has the sense of, gets the meaning of all these things. It's, I don't know how many of you saw Daimler-Benz interview recently. He said, no more, I'm not, and they are fierce competitors. They compete with BMW, compete with Audi cars. Their advertisement actually, they spend millions of euros in competing, creating competing advertisements. So, as he said, they are no more my competitors. Because he says, my new competitors are Amazon, Google. My new competitors are Amazon, Google, and companies like Tesla, which are making automated cars. So the plane you operate in, the surface you operate in, the environment you operate in, what you thought, all your research you have put in all these years and you said that is the way I will go and expertise completely is changed overnight. You need to reinvent, rethink what you are doing and get probably a new set of minds which would think differently. And this is going to happen with the technological changes happening every now and then. This is going to happen very frequently than what we think. So the people are not the ones who are going to score that 98 and 100 in your classes. The people who are going to succeed are the people who are scored to think differently, who see opportunities, who see different opportunities and how the world will think. Those days when we joined work 28, 30 years ago, there's something called a typewriter. Right? You need to actually go and learn typing, which many of us have done. Because it's not your executive or a clerk, but many times there is so much shortage of clerks, you need to insert a paper and type something because that's the only way letters could go. And then there came the electric typewriters which you can collect. We were all very thrilled. We thought that is the end of technological innovation. Come PCs, these typewriter companies completely vanished, and they were large companies minting money, tons of money. Right? Nobody expected when PCs came in, this will be the first hit. It happened. Today, look at cameras. Our camera companies, their consumer segment of cameras has already gone completely. Nobody thinks of going and buying a camera. Films, Kodak was a pioneer in films, has lost out and has to shut down or completely revamp because of digital films came in, which completely threw out their business model. So any changes which will come in as technology changes will be completely disruptive, but will create new opportunities as it goes by. Can you think of taking so many photos in the old days? Definitely not. You need to buy film. For those of you, you might not even know this. You have to load it. Then you will have to, if you don't load it, you will finish all your 36 rolls and then you realize nothing has come. We have all gone through that. Those are all history, right? You click a snap, it is there, and you can WhatsApp and send it to anywhere in the world. Software, as we see, I will talk with the regular software, will disrupt most of our traditional industries. Have you ever thought a taxi company without a single car will be the largest taxi company in this world? And look at what it is doing. Forget that. The usage of cars is coming down systematically. My wife has not touched my car in the last 4 months. She says, no, I don't want to drive. I will just take it for a round on a Sunday to just keep the batteries intact. Because at the click of a button, you get Uber. Airbnb, which does not own a single property. The hotel's valuation always depends on how good your properties are, how many properties you own, and what is your occupation rate. Does that happen? Airbnb owns 0 properties. It is still the largest, probably, as they call, accommodation company in the world. Computers have become exponentially better at understanding the world, which is an opportunity as well as a risk. This year, computer beat the best Go player in the world. It's a very tough game. It is sort of a quiz combined with a crossword game which you used to play. It has already started beat that. IBM Watson says you get with 90% accuracy, and they've done a survey. They said every legal advice you get across the world is 70% accurate. They are moving to 90% accurate, and you can get it at the click of a button. So would you have so many lawyers later? You doubt it. Facebook as a pattern recognition software today which can recognize faces better than humans. Already facial recognition has become a password for many of us. Look at what it has done. But it is also as a risk. It also, as Mr. Patel said very clearly, makes you think, it makes you a little dumb. If you take US, they are saying nearly 30% of the children who have passed high school are not able to say even a table of 8 or 9. Right? And that is statistics. Just Google and see. I'm not making that up. So the problem is, the more this one you have, it makes you think automatic. On a lighter vein, somebody WhatsApped me, an helicopter in Seattle, a pilot lost his way. He lost his radio communication as well as his compass bearings. So he knew the Microsoft building is the tallest building. He saw one very tall building there, went there and somehow wrote in a big piece of paper, "Where am I?" And the people on top of the building held up another paper to him saying, "You are in a helicopter." Right? But the pilot got his bearings, found his way and landed. And then everybody at the ground crew was surprised. When he told this, they said, "How did you manage?" He said, "By the answer I got, I know there should be software engineers and it should be Microsoft, because they gave me an extremely accurate answer, but mostly useless." So I'm nothing against Microsoft as a company, but all that I'm saying is, it makes you think, or it takes your multi-dimensional thinking power when you have so many of the things automated. Smartphones for education. Africa, there are smartphones available at about $10. Oh, sorry. There's a video you're playing? Oh, sorry.
In terms of technology and markets, innovation has to be introduced into a new or an existing market, and invention turns into innovation only when it's successfully commercialized. There are 4 types of innovations: incremental, radical, architectural, and disruptive. Although radical breakthroughs such as smartphone and magnetic resonance imaging capture most of our attention, the vast majority of innovations are actually incremental ones. An incremental innovation represents established knowledge and improves an existing product or service offering. Firms, often new ventures, use radical innovation to create a temporary competitive advantage. Then they follow up with a string of incremental innovations. In 1903, entrepreneur King Gillette invented and began selling the safety razor with a disposable blade. This radical innovation launched Gillette Company. In a classic example of a string of incremental innovations, Gillette kept adding an additional blade with each new version of its razor until the number had gone from 1 to 6. Though this innovation strategy seems predictable, it worked. Gillette holds some 80% of the $15 billion market for razors and blades globally. Let's look closer at the radical innovation now. Radical innovation draws on novel methods or materials. Is derived either from an entirely different knowledge base or from a recommendation of existing knowledge bases with a new stream of knowledge. It targets new markets by using new technologies, the X-ray, an airplane, smartphone. Many firms get their start by successfully commercializing radical innovations. Although the British firm de Havilland first commercialized the jet-powered passenger airplane, Boeing was the company that drove this radical innovation to industry dominance. Once an innovator has become an established incumbent firm, such as Google has today, it has strong incentives to defend its strategic position and market power. Google handles some 65% of all online queries, while it handles more than 90% in Europe. As firms become established and grow, they may experience organizational inertia, resistance to change in the status quo. A final reason why incumbent companies tend to be a source of incremental innovations is that they become embedded in an innovation ecosystem, a network of suppliers, buyers, complementers, and so on. Continuous incremental innovations reinforce this network and keep all its members happy. Now, let's look at the 2 other types of innovations. An architectural innovation is a new product in which known components based on existing technologies are reconfigured in a novel way. As a radical innovator, Xerox was most dominant copier company worldwide. it produces high-priced copying machines that it lists to its customers. Although these machines were ideal for the high end of the market, such as Fortune 100, Xerox ignored small and medium-sized business. By applying an architectural innovation, the Japanese entry Canon was able to redesign the copier so that it didn't need professional service. Reliability was built directly into the machine, and the user could replace parts such as the cartridge. Xerox had not envisioned the possibility that the components of the copying machine could be put together in a totally different way that was more user-friendly. A disruptive innovation leverages new technologies to attack existing markets. One factor favoring the success of this innovation is that it relies on a stealth attack. It invades the market from the bottom up by first capturing the low end. Here's an example. A high-end ultrasound machine found in cutting-edge research hospitals in the US or Europe costs $250,000. In 2002, a GE team in China developed inexpensive portable ultrasound device combining laptop technology with a probe and sophisticated imaging software. This lightweight device, 11 pounds, unveiled the new medical device Venue 40 in the US at a price of less than $30,000.
Okay, I just wanted to show you a little bit of how the innovations have changed. And what is the next biggest and largest innovation which is going to come in? Can anybody tell me? What do you expect as the next big wave of innovation? Anyone? No answer, surprising.
Robots. Teleportation maybe. Teleportation.
That's one.
Flying cars.
Cars, automated cars. Driverless cars, already people are testing it, and look at what it's going to do to you. One accident, as we know, will go away, hopefully, if they are success. Right? The insurance companies have a different model to worry about, because suddenly they see 70-75% of the business would go, accident insurance will go away, the car insurance would go away. The ownership of car would still undergo a drastic change, because if you can get a car at the drop of a button, why would you bother to drive back to your office or keep a driver? So the employment of drivers would undergo a change. At any point in time in a city in India, it's estimated 80% of the cars are standing in its garage, and thank God for that. If they come on the road, we cannot take it. We already have enough traffic jams. But look at those cars, all the manufacturing of that cars would become, at least half of that would become much less. But on the positive side, look at what will do to the water. Have you guys read of virtual water? The water.org, which is on site, go and see. They estimate what does it take to manufacture from a pin to a car, how much water, virtual water does it consume, which includes water probably taken at every process of that plant. What does the paint uses of water? How does the machine uses? A car is estimated to have 18,000 gallons of water. Sorry, 18,000 liters of water. So more water would be conserved, but less number of cars on the road. So it would completely change the industry as we know today, and that is not restricted, remember, only to automobile industry. It's going to spread to insurance, it's going to spread to banking, which there are banks which has a large portfolio of automobile funding. Look at that. People also will move, and I would cover it a little later, the place of residence, because if you can drive peacefully to your place of work and without jams, why would you try to live around that city? The parking spaces as we know today also there's an article in Times which I saw that they're converting a big green park as parking space, and there is a big fight going on. It would become the other way around. Parking spaces might get converted as green spaces. Electric cars would become mainstream, right? In the health side, already they are talking about IBM Watson, which I covered on the legal, but in health side they say this will help to diagnose cancer 4 times more accurate. It's supposed to have 80 teraflops, which is trillion floating operating points per second, with 90 servers and the number of 200 million pages, and it is getting added every day. Every time gives you an answer, it just goes and updates itself. And it gives a wrong answer, it just updates it much more so that it doesn't get repeated. The tricorder X will be a medical device where you can breathe in, and it will give you probably everything that you know what you do for a blood test. And these are all not even at prototype. They've come up the first or second level of testing. So the labs as we know, the blood test as we know might completely vanish. The flyovers as we know, which we construct, might not be needed at all. The smartphones for education in Africa, they are already trying with the $10, which is 600 rupees to 1,000 rupees phones, where the children can own a smartphone and they can start getting educated. Online educational institutions, have you ever seen Khan Academy? Just go to their valuation and see. You would never imagine an online educational site would get valued so much. And look at the advantage from a student. If you are doing an extracurricular course, you need not run, go back from school, run to that course, sit there, because all that time is saved. You sit at home at your convenient time, right? You go through the online courses. Interactive mobile applications, as you know, but it is also being put to very high productive use. I'm told that half of African children are being taught by interactive mobile application the use of English. Agriculture is the largest employer in this country, right? If robotics takes place at about $100, look at what would happen to a large number of employment. But on the flip side, it would also increase your agriculture productivity to new levels. Because one of the biggest inputs on agriculture today is the high cost of labor. The government, as you all know, introduced what they called as MNREGA, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Program, which last about 2.3 crores of people have been guaranteed 100 days of employment in rural, which is a noble cause, very good social cause. But as a result of which, what has happened, the cost of labor has gone up, right? As a result of which, the agriculture cost has gone up, and they are not getting the cost for the produce in the market. So this would completely change if the innovation, if you can give it at about $100, many of these labors get replaced. Aeroponics is a science where they've started growing plants in air. Unheard of, right? In fact, I wish they could do it for houses, because one of the biggest challenges we face is availability of land to build the affordable houses. If somebody could get a technology for houses on air, we would be more than happy. The meat, it's become a petri dish produced meat, so you don't need animals to have meat hereafter if this comes in. Proteins, they are moving to the insect-based proteins. So all this controversy we have on buffalo meat, cow meat, everything might go away. And several startups have already started working on this insect protein. What is our biggest challenge when we started learning to school? Can somebody tell me? I still have it as a challenge. Tying your shoelaces, right? It would never come. Nike has already automated it. Nike has moved an automated shoe lag and a right reflecting shoes already in place in US, which is being commercially sold. In fact, now the biggest objection to that is parents are objecting because it is automating children, so withdraw it. Yeah. They're fighting a parents group in US for it. True. The fashion brands like Tommy Hilfiger and Nordstrom are already experimenting with chatbots rather than people doing it. You might not like somebody commenting on a dress. And when you go to a change room in a shop, you already started working out with the 3D image of yours getting reflected back, not only in the mirror. Augmented reality in virtual fitting rooms and 3D body scanners are almost, we are seeing it as a reality. Smart devices will track information based on your location, body temperature, and body measure. So the priorities of us is going to change constantly, along with much less privacy which we would have, right? Come back to the next one. We just had, the country had a big scare on the wannabe virus. The viruses have become self-mutating now. You kill one, and this is officially, you kill one, The viruses themselves, like some of the viruses in our body which has become self-mutating and probably antibiotic resistance, they have become self-mutating, which becomes much more difficult for us to operate electronically. You recently saw the entire airport of Heathrow was shut down because some of the computer system failed. What happens if the planes are in mid-air and some viruses attack all the planes? Probably, right? It's no more a fiction of a science story, it could become a reality. And those of you who saw the Google launch and Sundar Pichai's Google Lens is again a reality which allows to understand what is going on a photo, a video or a live feed. Secure wearables which are embedded, hypersensing bioreactive nanochips, GPS location monitoring, all that is almost a reality. Gaming platforms have become integrated. No more you play a game with it or get somebody to your home and play it. Every gaming platform has become interactive. You could play with somebody who's sitting abroad. Like we do a game on a mobile phone. No, thanks. Now let me come to my favorite topic. How will the housing change? Housing, as you all know, and it's a very, very real importance to with all these changes. Housing, as you all know, has linkages to something alike 250 industries, right? You have carpentry, you have masonry, cement, brick, steel, iron, so on and so forth. As I said, if you can work and do in a driverless car, why would you stay in the middle of the city paying high real estate prices? You would like most of them do in Europe or US, you would like to stay in a suburb, in the middle of green. This solar production, will electricity shortage will be there? I doubt it. The way solar technology is going, 2 weeks ago somebody had come and showed us a small box like this which they say will produce the solar energy needed for a house. Once the cost comes down, look at it now, many of the state governments, I don't know how many of you saw the power minister's interview 2 weeks ago. How are we doing on time? Are we okay? Sarita? Just give me a warning if I say. Many of the state grids are not able to accept supply from solar power because solar power keeps on increasing and abundant with power so much, and if water is saved, there will be abundant water supply. So the concept of water shortage, we go, as somebody said, we don't have scarce water in most places, we have scarce drinking water. New technologies would help buildings come up quick and fast. China is showing the way on that. Where we expected a bridge to come up in probably 36 months, they are saying in 3 months they will get a bridge up and running. Multi-story buildings, today we have technology in the country. Multi-story buildings can be put up in 12 months, full, safe, secure, and earthquake resistant. But again, I would say one thing, let's keep your thinking. All this will come in, but your thinking has to be still challenge these things and multi-dimensional. What would happen if your thinking is just the biggest risk of all these things, and I repeat it, and I'm sorry, I will again repeat it once more, is making your thinking unidimensional. Just on a lighter wheel, this my friend tweeted saying it actually happened, so I'm not sure. An Englishman was driving in France, and you know the English cars are on the left side like ours in France another way. He was stopped by a policeman and said, "Are you drunk?" He was sitting in the front seat of the car. He said, "Yes, I had some whiskeys in the morning, then wine in the afternoon because I attended my daughter's wedding and I'm very happy." So the French police gets very offended. Anywhere abroad, unlike our police, they get taken very, very seriously and they get very, very offended. So he said, "I will do an alcohol test." And he did alcohol test, and true, it came positive. So he said, "Do you know, under the French law, I'm going to arrest you?" The Englishman said, answers very nicely, "No sir, I did not know, I do not know this. But while we are asking questions, do you realize this is a British car and my wife is the one who's driving it?" So again, why I am saying this again is purely because all technologies makes us think on a single line. Never give in to that. You are in a position to question, ask that. I'm going to conclude with one thing. What are the changes which India is up to under this government and the Prime Minister? I'm not going to make a political statement, don't worry. It's all statistics which I am putting in there. But before that, many of the student groups I hear, and I expected a question, why are things moving so slowly in government? I was in private sector till 1.5 years ago, and I asked the same question. And one of the reasons why I chose to give up probably a good salary and move to a government is I said, let me try this. How many times you will stand outside and criticize the system? When the government opened up probably for the first time, I said, I will try this. Now look at this challenge. Every state of India, the population is equal to that of a country. If you take Tamil Nadu, Rajasthan is equivalent to that of Thailand. So is Tamil Nadu. Maharashtra is equivalent to Mexico, UP to Brazil. So it's not going to be easy to take a decision in a free country and to implement it, because there will be multi-pressure groups, multi-consumer groups, and various interest as if in any country. So what are the things we have done? One, trends in the sector is, for the first time anywhere in the country, the government has said, by 2022, build 5 crore houses. The total shortfall is estimated 4 crores in the rural area and 2 crores in urban area, which are embedded, hypersensing, bioreactive nanochips, GPS location monitoring, all that is almost a reality. Gaming platforms have become integrated. No more you play a game with it or get somebody to your home and play it. Every gaming platform has become interactive. You could play with somebody who's sitting abroad. Like we do a game on a mobile phone. No, thanks. Now let me come to my favorite topic. How will the housing change? Housing, as you all know, and it's a very, very real importance to with all these changes. Housing, as you all know, has linkages to something alike 250 industries, right? You have carpentry, you have masonry, cement, brick, steel, iron, so on and so forth. As I said, if you can work and do in a driverless car, why would you stay in the middle of the city paying high real estate prices? You would like most of them do in Europe or US, you would like to stay in a suburb, in the middle of green. This solar production, will electricity shortage will be there? I doubt it. The way solar technology is going, 2 weeks ago somebody had come and showed us a small box like this, which they say will produce the solar energy needed for a house. Once the cost comes down, look at it now, many of the state governments, I don't know how many of you saw the power minister's interview 2 weeks ago. How are we doing on time? Are we okay? Sunita? Just give me a warning if I say many of the state grids are not able to accept supply from solar power because solar power keeps on increasing and abundant with power so much, and if water is saved, there will be abundant water supply. So the concept of water shortage, we go, as somebody said, we don't have scarce water in most places, we have scarce drinking water. New technologies would help buildings come up quick and fast. China is showing the way on that. Where we expected a bridge to come up in probably 36 months, they are saying in 3 months they will get a bridge up and running. Multi-story buildings, today we have technology in the country. Multi-story buildings can be put up in 12 months, full, safe, secure, and earthquake resistant. But again, I would say one thing, let's keep your thinking. All this will come in, but your thinking has to be still challenge these things and multi-dimensional. What would happen if your thinking is just the biggest risk of all these things, and I repeat it, and I'm sorry, I will again repeat it once more, is making your thinking unidimensional. Just on a lighter vein, this is my friend tweeted saying it actually happened, so I'm not sure. An Englishman was driving in France, and you know the English cars are on the left side like ours, and France another way. He was stopped by a policeman and said, "Are you drunk?" He was sitting in the front seat of the car. He said, "Yes, I had some whiskeys in the morning, then wine in the afternoon because I attended my daughter's wedding and I'm very happy." So the French police gets very offended. Anywhere abroad, unlike our police, they get taken very, very seriously and they get very, very offended. So he said, I will do an alcohol test. And he did alcohol test, and true, it came positive. So he said, do you know, under the French law, I'm going to arrest you. The Englishman said, answers very nicely, no sir, I did not know, I do not know this. But while we are asking questions, do you realize this is a British car and my wife is the one who's driving it? So again, why I am saying this again is purely because all technologies makes us think on a single line, never give in to that. You are in a position to question, ask that. I'm going to conclude with one thing. What are the changes which India is up to under this government and the Prime Minister? I'm not going to make a political statement, don't worry. It's all statistics which I am putting in there. But before that, many of the student groups I hear, and I expected a question, why are things moving so slowly in government? I was in private sector till 1.5 years ago, and I asked the same question. And one of the reasons why I chose to give up probably a good salary and move to a government is I said, let me try this. How many times you will stand outside and criticize the system? When the government opened up probably for the first time, I said, I will try this. Now look at this challenge. Every state of India, the population is equal to that of a country. If you take Tamil Nadu, Rajasthan is equivalent to that of Thailand. So is Tamil Nadu. Maharashtra is equivalent to Mexico, UP to Brazil. So it's not going to be easy to take a decision in a free country and to implement it, because there will be multi-pressure groups, multi-consumer groups, and various interest as if in any country. So what are the things we have done? One, trends in the sector is, for the first time anywhere in the country, the government has said, by 2022, build 5 crore houses. The total shortfall is estimated 4 crores in a rural area and 2 crores in urban area. From a government scheme, they've already sanctioned 25 lakhs houses. This does not include private. We are still trying to get the estimate. And these are affordable houses. I'm talking about probably at 10 or 15 lakhs. Doesn't cover your high-end houses. The Jan Dhan Yojana, which all of you would have heard for the first time in the country, every customer was asked to open, every individual at whatever level he is was asked to open a bank account so that most of the government benefits could move to him directly. And I think as of last week, they have opened 28 crores of people had opened a bank account. They never had a bank account before. Imagine. Sitting here in Bombay, you guys would never imagine this. And the balance in those accounts are 64,000 crores. Right? So it's not an easy thing. I don't know how many of you would remember our former Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi's statement. He made it official. He said, every 1 rupee the government gives to the poor, only 15 paise reaches them. With this bank accounts, the 100 rupees will reach them because it's a direct transfer to his account. It doesn't depend on intermediaries. And the government at the last estimate said they've saved about 25,000 crores or some because they moved away with every intermediary processing. It's a direct processing to the customer. The Digital India, where it is creating opportunities and connecting people, you can tweet to any of the ministers. You can put in that Prime Minister's application whatever problems you have. Plus, most of central government ministries at least are in digital mode connected. The Umang application nearly saves 4 to 5 crores of retired fund body managers, and the goal is to ultimately link it to every application. Be it on housing, be it on steel, every individual customer application would get linked to Umang. And even if it happens in the next 5 to 6 years, look at it, it's a major technology change which would move the way people interact with the government. The gone will be the days where you go and wait there. Right? Now, with all these changes, as your chairman said, needs very strong leadership. And you are the leaders of tomorrow. So I am going to cover a very brief bit on various styles of leadership. Right? And just give you a line, make your thoughts thinking on those lines. You want me to play again? Proceed. Is there a video? Okay. Leadership at not being an admin of WhatsApp group. Somebody asked, are you a leader? He said, I am admin of a large WhatsApp group, right? That's not leadership. Leadership is about what are the types, theories, and change, right? Leadership traits, which I would rate as to be extremely transformational mindset. If you are going to say, I'm going to lead the same thing, you might not be an effective leader. Behavioral, as Savita said, you should understand the behavior. That is why your mothers are leaders, and I totally agree. We might not have seen. And my eyes were opened. One student, we were talking about who will make best finance ministers as a debate in a school, and one student got up and said, and it is true, I've never imagined my mom as that way. He said, has she ever told you one day, and you have to come from a real middle class or a little, probably a lower income group or a government servants group like what we had done on those days to understand this, right? He said, has she ever told me once there is no food at home, even at month-ends? Suddenly you walk in with 4 or 5 friends, the food will materialize somewhere. You will say 5 friends will come and 1 will go, that food will never go waste. When you wanted money for a genuine cause, I'm sure none of the mothers would have, they will find somewhere. Whether they have the money, whether there is a bank balance. So, and it was a fantastic argument. He said they will make the best finance ministers, and he said for the country to be good, they should only make moms as finance ministers. So I am saying the change of leadership are 3 things when you are leaders to change, and you would have seen, even in your roles as monitors, as leaders, as captains, you would have already seen. One is if you want to make a change, let's say you want to make a change in a football team. The moment you discuss with somebody, there will be rumors which will fluctuate. They say, hey, he doesn't like you, he wants to drop you. No relation to as to why you want to do it, no relation as to his past performance. You might have all the data and you're doing it definitely for the good of the team and good of the school. But no, the individuals feel some sense of shock, possible disbelief, and so much of emotion. Right? Keep away from that. You are doing it as far as you're doing it based on data, analysis, and you're convinced that is the way to go. You should just stick to your ground. As the change becomes clearer, you will see the rest of the team will align to you. The team will protest, but as you do, the rest of the team will minimize their opposition to you, what I call as the minimization stage, and align to you. And some force of depression in between or after, because my best friend who has been playing as my next to me is gone. So I feel depressed and they get the depression into 4 other guys. Right? And the negative energy is much easier to spread than positive energy, very frankly, because people are waiting to take that. So that will happen. Don't still get disheartened. Your job only, if you find negative, talk to them more and more, communicate, say why you are doing this, say it is for the good of the team. And finally they would accept it. You see any of these things, right? You see, what is the last change we did? No, GST is just doing that. The Real Estate Regulation Act. I don't know how much of you know. We have a $100 billion construction industry which is unregulated. If your parents have bought a house and it is stuck in between, the only way for them is to go to a consumer court or court and wait for 10 years. When the real estate bills was introduced, I was part of the government, so I know, so much of opposition from one section, which is the builders, and so much of support from the other section, which is the consumer. Right? Today, as 1.5 years have gone by, people have accepted. Both sides are sitting and talking to each other. And we are talking about very powerful industry bodies, which is the builders. Similarly in GST, you will find a lot of opposition. I am saying rightly or wrongly, the government is moving towards a goal of one nation, one tax, which seems very good. There will be implementing this one, and in any of these projects, there will be opposition and different views. You can only accept it up to a point. Are you going to play video? I will just play video of 3 or 4 leaders. Take a look at it. Oh, sorry, Captain Raghu's video on the army.
The second rule is that every leader should be capable of doing one up, which means that they should be trained, as you should be training yourself to be able to command one level up. So a section commander who commands 10 men is taught how to command a platoon of 40 men. A platoon commander who commands 40 is taught how to command a company of 180. A company commander to a battalion commander to a brigade commander, and so on and so forth.
Go to this.
A question I ask very often in B schools is
My
why
name is
do
Amy
our soldiers
Wilkinson. I'm a
do
White
this?
House Fellow. My question is how you would define the key characteristics of effective leadership that allow you to go and be an advocate for good.
Trust. The longer I have been in public service and the more people have asked me about leadership over the years, leadership ultimately comes down to creating conditions of trust within an organization. Good leaders are people who are trusted by followers. Leaders take organizations past the level that the science of management says is possible. One of my sergeants back in the infantry school at Fort.
Okay, I'm going to name 2 or 3 leaders, and in the interest of time, cut it. You have one more video, right? Which we wanted to show in the last one. Alexander the Great. No Greek emperor before him ever thought that he could conquer the world. Greeks were known for their pleasures, passive lifestyle. He completely changed it. Chhatrapati Shivaji, as known as a bandit or a terrorist those days, created a small group of warriors and threatened the Mughal Empire completely by his commitment and leading from the front. Mahatma Gandhi, who was able to raise the entire nation to march with him, barring all the gunshots and lathis, but still get his independence. On a different, completely opposite paradox, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, who said, I will fight for my rights, and raised an army in those circumstances, right? And there are still people who say if we had been allowed to continue, we might have got our independence much earlier. One of the other biggest, I'm skipping that video, let's go to the last video in the interest of time. One of the biggest, this one of leaders, as I say, is humor. Humor will diffuse many of the tough situations. During World War I, somebody called in a meet or a lecture Winston Churchill a fool, and the police went and arrested him. Now Winston Churchill had a problem because as per British law you can't arrest somebody for calling a prime minister a fool. So the whole parliament was in uproar. They asked, are we in a police state that we can't call the prime minister a fool? Winston Churchill stood up and said, we did not arrest him for calling the prime minister a fool, we arrested him for letting a state secret out. Right? So humor, and it diffused the situation completely. Everybody forgot. Humor is a good way to do things. As somebody said, and it is true, you look at it, collapsing any nation or organization does not require use of atomic bombs or long-range missiles. It only requires lowering of your leadership level. It applies for organizations, business entities, nations, and world as a whole. I'm not naming anybody, but if you think of it, you will see it around. Right? Business organizations go down not because business model changes, because the leadership perceives or do not perceive how it changes. Organizations go down, countries go down, and world as a unit goes down or get into war because of leadership weaknesses. And complete resilience is a must. Somebody asked once Martina Navarattila, how do you play tennis at the age of 43? She just said, I know it, you know it, but the ball does not know I am 43. Right? That is the resilience which makes it worse. It is Dr. Abdul Kalam who once said, and in a school meeting, he advised the school students, past is a waste paper, present is a newspaper, future is a question paper, so read and write carefully, otherwise your life will become a tissue paper. I will play one video at the end, 2 minutes of time.
You are experiencing history's highest rate of change, disruption, ambition, and opportunity. There's never been a better time for you to innovate. And you're capable of more than you think. You're capable today of anything you could dream. But most people don't realize this is a new era. This is not the time to preserve the status quo. It's the time for action, for ambition, for taking risks. This is the time to push yourself because nobody else will, because nobody else controls you. So be bold, pursue your dreams, design your own future. Now's the time to push your limits, to get out of your comfort zone, to make change happen even if it seems hard. Because I need you to take the leap. I need you to break your own rules. I need you to push harder, to act sooner, to never give up. If you want to get better and faster, be curious, be insatiable, be willing to destroy. And remember, you don't need a big idea, you need a little idea that you can make big. Be revolutionary.
Thank you. I'm ready.